Welcome back, everybody. So today I wanted to have a side-by-side of my Chinook wet hop beers. Now these are both using the same grain bill, 2 pounds of Roar Premium Pilsner malt and 2.4 ounces of Crystal 40. Now the one on my left for that Chinook, it's using 0.25 at 60, at 30, at 15, and at flame out. Then the one on my right, it's just 2 times that. So we're using 0.5 at 60, 0.5 at 30, 0.5 at 15, then 1 ounce at flame out. Both are using Nottingham yeast. I did not say that in the single video. I have done reviews and put those out separately, but I just wanted to go over this and talk about what I'm getting out of, okay, should you use this much or should you use this much? Now, these are homegrown wet hops, so that's picked right off the vine, thrown into the kettle. Now, I think everybody should experiment with their own, not go by what I'm saying, because if you're in a different part of the world, yours could be a little different. Maybe the soil's different, so your alpha acid is higher, so you're going to introduce more bitterness into it. Well, then you wouldn't want to use maybe the same thing I do, because you're going to go over. Now, the goal of this was almost to make kind of an IPA, that pale ale slash IPA right there on the border, just to see what I can get. So that's what I did. Now, did I exceed? In my opinion, no, because on the double one, I must have used too much water, because the finished ABV was 4.12, and then on the regular version it was 5.24. So when you're using those wet hops, you're going to use a lot more of them, and they're going to soak up liquid. So I must have really went over on the amount of water that I used, and it was higher. So again, not a comparison, apples to apples, but I think we can get the profile of the hop out of these. So for the head, I would say they're both the same. Now, when I did pour them, the 2 times did have a better head, but now I would say they're the same. If we look at the color, if anything, the one on my left, the standard version, is a little orangier. And that would almost make sense. You could say that the version on my left is the IPA, and the version on my right is the pale ale. But again, if I think this hits home to that if you use more water, it's going to be more diluted, so the color's not going to be there. And I think that does show it, that this was a bigger batch than this. Now, I could say I used 3 ounces of the Crystal 40 in this and only 2 ounces in this. But because I did use the same amount, I would say that's the case where the one on my right was a bigger batch. If anything, you can't really go by this, but the one on my left is clear. But that could be that the one on my right, that bottle was last bottled and it got more trub. Let's go ahead and smell. More malt crystal sweetness in there. I think that Crystal 40 really comes through. In the 2-hop version, I think that citrus and that spiciness really comes through in that, doubling those hops. So I would say for the smell, if you like Chinook hops, I think you could say the 2 times is the better smelling beer. Yeah, because the beer on my left, it almost smells like there's no hops in there, like there was too much malt used. The grain bill was too big. Where at least the one on my right, it smells like hops. And I think in an IPA, in a standard IPA, I would rather have the hops come through than the malt. Like when you get into those bigger double IPAs, okay, let's have that syrupy malt sweetness smell come through. But in this, I would say that the 2 times is better as far as the smell. So let's go ahead and taste. Yeah, that sweet malt is there, but I think because it's warming up a little bit, I'm getting a touch of bitterness because it's hitting me in the throat now. There's still a lot of sweet malt in there. I do get a hint of citrus in there in the back before that bitterness. Yeah, beer 2 tastes more balanced. Um, that citrus spiciness is in there. You get a hint of malt. I think the thing I complained about the 2 times version was it needed a little bit more sweetness. We're using that Crystal 40. Now, I guess if you wanted to use it for color, you could say, okay, well, I wanted the hops to come out. I didn't want that sweetness from that crystal to come out. I just wanted the color. Then, yeah, I could say, okay, I can see that. But to me, the second one needs a little bit more sweetness. I know that Crystal 40 is going to give us a little light caramel sweetness, and I'm really not getting that, even at a 4.12%. Very smooth, light bodied. I do think beer 1 is a heavier body. Yeah, definitely heavier. But again, I think that's because beer number 2, the 2 hop, is diluted more because I used more water. On this test, I can't go with any of them. As far as the hops go, I would say the 2 times the hops is the better. I wish that 2 time taste was with beer number 1, and then I think you would be set. So I would take the malt profile from beer 1 with the hop profile of beer 2. So I do think next year I'll have to wait because I've already picked them, dried the hops. But I would do 0.5 ounces at flame out of the Chinook instead of 1, and made sure I watched that boil. Because really, it's an hour boil. Yeah, you're going to be off, but I would probably boil longer if I knew I was going to be higher. Because yeah, I would rather have that malt base in beer 1 with the hop taste of beer 2. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, check some more out over here. And until next time, happy brewing.